Afternoon, everybody. Sorry, not a great setup, but beggars can't be choosers, and my brother graciously lent me his SUV. I got to get tires for my truck. So much to do, a ball joint, and of course one bearing left. That's all I have left, and then my truck is back up and running. Can't wait, really excited. But I'll let that minute to let people log on, and we'll get into my super late night last night. And I was going on Twitter. My friend Richard Albert, Dr. Richard Albert, Director of Law, State of Texas, U of T. He's been granted a seat with 13, altogether 13 experts to get rid of the crown in Jamaica. So it's explosive, it's exciting. They got quite the work ahead of them for this year, and it's exciting, really exciting, getting rid of the crown. And so I'm on Twitter last night, and a space pops up, and it's a sovereign citizen, a guy I've talked to many times before over the years, and he's quite intelligent, MJ. And so I go into it, and it's a small group, and they got a Crown Prosecutor, Canadian Crown Prosecutor in there, and we went through lots on constitutionalism, and it was an incredible 6 hours, to be honest. I want to get a copy of that Spaces. It's epic. It's like the Watergate of our justice system. It's incredible. And what was disclosed there by a prosecutor, what they think about law and their understanding of Canada. And at one point she backed out and she took off. I think she was upset at the reality that she couldn't explain a lot of things. She couldn't explain the legal system. And it was also interesting, just on the criminal side, this is a Crown Prosecutor. She's in Ontario, but her understanding and her sheltered cylinder of law, even in the criminal side, what she understood, because everybody is pushed through like a cylinder, and it's a very blunt instrument, the justice system. It's a one-size-fits-all, and the understanding of prosecutors isn't really there. And myself and MJ were just blown away, and we were secretly messaging each other in like the personal PM of Twitter. It's like it looks like a Gmail envelope, but during the space you can actually talk to each other privately, PM each other, and we're like, holy shit, like, is this for real? Is she talking like this? And she is. And it was an epic amount of release of what our Canadian lawyers think, our Canadian bars. And as I started rolling out international experts on law, it was funny that she hit dead end after dead end and could not, for the life of her, explain. Now, she's it's going to have to do handheld. It's just so much, not my vehicle, and my brother's mount isn't very good. It's seen better days. But what was crazy is just when you hit her with things that happen with the Supreme Court, Superior Courts of Provinces, and the unconstitutionality that was made constitutional. What I mean by that is the Supreme Court makes decisions that you can't find written in any precedent law, and we're a common law, meaning law of precedence. So when they make judgments that have no precedent in any law of Canada's history, and further, there's nothing in the constitutional acts of Canada, start to finish, all consolidated, that give them any written direction to do what they did. Well, folks, that's because it's called a fusion of the judiciary with the executive. And over again, many examples, many in Canada, not just federally in the Supreme Court, but in the Superior Courts of the provinces, we kept kept hitting her with example after example where, explain to me where this came from. There's only one source. The politicalization of the courts, meaning King's Court, folks. It means the politicians, the Justice Minister, or the Governor General of Canada, or a Justice Minister of a province, and the Lieutenant Governor, by way of Governor General of Canada, made that action happen. It's not constitutional, but it's been made constitutional because a judge ruled that way and nobody challenged it. And a whole bunch of people got in there, different experts from different fields, and they said, yeah, why is it that they did this? Where does that come from? And of course, the prosecutor couldn't answer that. Then the prosecutors brought up just Raybould and what she did over Alberta's native fella that got shot by that farmer years back. I think it's Barrasso, and the family and everything that was changed with jury selection of peers and everything else, which again, there's no common law precedent to explain how that was done. There's nothing, and it goes back to Privy Council, it goes back to Prime Minister, and it goes back to Governor General through Attorney General. And then this is where nobody can explain it. Nobody, no Canadian legal expert can explain these things. And the reason why, folks, is because it's King's Court. It's whenever the government decides to step in over the courts, they tell the courts. Another interesting fact I brought back from Texas, and this is from the Supreme Court Justices of the United States of America. For those on my trip back from Sudbury to Edmonton and everybody I interacted with, I got to show them my email from the Supreme Court of the United States of America, where they share with me some pretty interesting intellectual property. Their representative, she's registered, and her email, you can see it, it's the Supreme Court of the United States. You can't, it's a government email, and she's their representative for all 9 justices. I met her live. Holy smokes. Whoa. Just about got hit by some metal there. Guy's truck just fell apart. That was a big scrap. I'm fast. I'm just going to look at this guy. Oh well. He's lost some parts. So the Supreme Court sent me an email, and I sent them actions by...
In 600 Alberta. Meters, continue on to Yellowhead Highway East, Yellowhead Trail.
I'm going to get tires. So I showed a lot of people that email, and it's our Lieutenant Governor here in Alberta telling the media how she's the constitutional fire extinguisher whenever they need to step in on government or the Superior Court. And this is the same for Governor General of Canada, which was very angry. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Continue on Yellowhead Highway East for 15 kilometers.
And Prime Minister Trudeau wasn't very happy about that either. And it's a leak of the superior Crown power. And folks, when we deal with the police, when we deal with the military, when we deal with the entirety of the justice system, they all take orders that go up, 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 all through absolutely all the Crown appointments. The undemocratic, two-faced side of the Canadian government. This was the power of Nazi Germany. Why? Because prior to 1945, they were a constitutional monarchy written exactly like Canada. Different nouns, Chancellor and President, with the exact same constitutional monarchical definitions as Prime Minister and Governor General of Canada. And folks, Canada is much, much older in design, 1867, than what was Nazi Germany as a constitutional monarchy. That's the truth. The same thing applies for South Africa apartheid. Canada is the first design of that colonial era. Our constitution is very old in monarchical constitutions, codified. And a lot of justices, lawyers in Canada will flee will flee when they're hit with these truths that are what Canada is, and they're not trained to deal with it. Like I said, I think MJ said it the best. He said they're in a cylinder. They're isolated. They go to school. Yes, they take a course on constitutionalism in first year, but that's the end of it. They quickly branch off into their cylindrical roles. Even this prosecutor, folks, a leading Crown prosecutor in Ontario told me, no, there's no provincial criminal court system. Excuse me? No, we never do plea bargains and deals with sex offenders. Folks, I can tell you, as a guy who was processed in the criminal system, I've seen the remand, I've seen people from the provincial in criminal, and I've seen people in the federal criminal. Many people never see the light of day on indictments because they plea bargain. There are many sex offenders across Canada that are 3-time convicted sex offenders. Some more heinous than others. Some maybe they got a good deal, the right judge. But most folks, listen to me, Government of Canada statistics, 283 days is the average sex offender's stint when criminally convicted in Canada. Doesn't matter, on average, every province, they make a deal, a plea bargain. Because they're guilty, they know they make a plea bargain and they take a very, very light sentence. Now, if you're innocent, and not just sexual, we can go into all kinds of crimes, and we got into that last night. Rough divorce, child custody, accusations made, you're innocent, and it happens to a lot of men. And I'm not running down women here. I know it's happened to women too, but for men, in a large majority, this is what I talk about, the blunt instrument of our justice system. It's just like healthcare, just like many ministries. One size fits all. They can't isolate people in an A, B, C, D category. They don't. It's one size fits all. Plea it down, regardless of the situation. You can have a priest who molested 7 boys, and there's all kinds of, and he's getting off left, right, and center, or maybe does 3.5 years for all the offenses because they quietly plea bargain, they plead it down, they add up 283 days, 7 times over. Do the math. The guy does 6 years for horrendously, brutally raping 7 boys, but yet a father who's probably innocent, going through child custody, and there's a whole ton of them, will fight it for everything he's worth, be put through the full extent of the law, the entirety of the federal system where there's no plea deals because you're not going to deal because you're innocent, and you'll go through and you'll pay to the furthest extremes of the law. It will cost you hand over fist, and you will do some time, whether you're guilty or innocent or not. But if you're innocent and you fight the system, you do more than the plea bargaining pedophile who's guilty and they plea it down. And this is the reality right across Canada, and it was just absolutely pathetic. As I posted in the chat, like, you can exit the Twitter space and go into the chat, like, still listen to everybody, and you can post links, and I did. And of course, she looked at the links in the chat and gone in within seconds, and didn't like that. And it was not to shame her, I'm gracious she came forward, but folks, this is what's wrong, not only with the justice system, it's every single federal and provincial ministry, and it's because we don't have any kind of proper codifications. It's a blunt King's Court instrument that just smashes down, and they milk the innocent. They routinely free and give the lowest of low sentencing for the guiltiest of the guilty. And last night there was one, the voice, he's a provincial politician, and I'm not going to say his name, but he tried to piss me off. He tried to, oh, Dave, I was through it too. It happened to me, and the justice system was fair, and it all worked out relatively quickly. It's like, for myself and many, many other third-class citizens, when it's about children and it's about assets, there are people who've been drugged through the ringer, and they've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for no good reason but to feed a corrupt system. And I'm sorry, but that's reality for many, many men across Canada. And yes, the States, we see it all over. There are problems with many justice systems, but this blunt force system of Canada likes to liquidate. It likes to liquidate those that it can drag through the system, keep people looped in the system, and keep it going on. There was much on First Peoples. I was very happy to get across the stats, to a leading Crown prosecutor here in Canada, to get the stats of First Peoples in prison, and put those stats against the United States of America and the stats against Russia. When I say that, that's the American Indian, the Russian Yupik, the Siberian Yupiks, which are all the same as the First Peoples in Canada, with the same variations. We can say Inuit, Métis, and absolutely treaty and unceded Indians. But the reality is it's the exact same people, all three countries. And when you look at prison stats in Canada, it cries out 2,000 times more than those two other countries. Why would that be? Is USA a liar on stats? Is Russia a liar on stats? Well, then you could look at segregation in the United States, and you could look at African Americans in history, and even today, which even their stats don't even remotely compare to Canadian First Peoples. That is a modeled, broken system. I was happy to go through residential school genocide. I was happy to get that across. It's funny, this is a leading Crown prosecutor, completely blind in her cylinder. And I'm not running her down. It's atypical of all justices and lawyers in Canada. Any that I've had limited dealings with, it's this cylindrical bar that they went through and their career history. It's like Canada's a giant puzzle in all these government first-class positions, and all these pieces are separate, but they fit together for the highest level of Crown, who understands it very good, but they're all just individually little pieces who don't really understand the system they're in, the broken system they're in. And hey, they're doing well, they're making money. Hey, it's not broke. I don't have to worry about it. I don't care where the money comes from. I get paid from the consolidated funds. It all works out well for me. But the reality is the system around them, the people around them, they're not operating in any realm of normalcy. It's, again, a blunt instrument. We can go through healthcare. I could go CMHC. I could go with Alberta Health Services, BC Health Services, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland, go all the way through all the provinces, right? We could go through Saskatchewan, PEI, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, the territories, Nunavut, Yukon, Northwest Territories. We could do them all, folks. And it's all the same crap, every ministry. And, it was interesting with the sovereign citizens, what we got accomplished last night. We continued on way into the wee hours. I'm tired today, and it was good though. It's progress forward. It's more for our party. I think our membership's going to continue to grow. Folks, a lot of people out there right now, emails, I'm going to get to them tonight. I do have to do Sheffrey Gibson tonight. We're doing that show. We're going to go through stuff in our party and get even more people. And we're going to continue and just expand this membership just as large as we can do. But it was an explosive Twitter Spaces last night. I want to get the recording. I want to chop that up. It's not to make fun of a leading justice, a lead justice in Canada, a lead prosecutor. It's the fact that they don't even know the system that they're working in. They're very pigeonholed, they're very locked away in a cylinder, and they have no real clue. Like, she didn't even realize how many people plea bargain, summary convict down from indictments in the provincial and do hardly any time because they're guilty as shit, and they get off so easy. And when you plead not guilty and you say, no, I didn't do it, this is wrong, I'm innocent, you will be put through the full indictment system. You will pay and you'll be tortured for the years it takes, the money it takes, and there's time and there's probation involved in that. And often in the end, so many will tap out because they run out of money, or in the end, because they can't afford the justice system, they'll just walk away, a no contest. I myself had to do a no contest. I'm not guilty, but the prosecution and the justice system isn't guilty either. They're not wrong, even though you did time for a crime you clearly didn't commit. And that is the problem with Canada, all through, not just the justice system, folks. And it's not about me and so many others who've been wronged by it. It's the fact that we can go through health, we can go through labor, immigration, refugee. This goes on and on and on. What the Constitution says, what limited codification that is there, is often not followed by our justice system, or politicized by politicians who want to make their policies and platform go ahead. And absolutely, the tremendous and great expense of all Canadian subjects, and absolutely all the defined Canadian savages who are ultimately attached to the Indian Act. Last night it was funny, this lead prosecutor, I'm fully aware of the Indian Act. No, clearly you're not. And clearly you don't know any government statistics, because I popped them in the chat and it just showed how very, very wrong and pigeonholed she was, and that a whopping 80% of those that go through the system never see the light of day of her area, and they've been plead out and dealed down long before they ever see her. And often they're three-strike losers who've mastered the system, know how to get away with doing tremendous crimes. And this is Canada. They just love it. They love it. It keeps the system fed, fat, taxpayers paying for a broken system, while so many are hit with the blunt instrument of it. No, I didn't do it, but you're going to pay and you're going to fund and supply that system whether you like it or not. And that's the real sickness of our justice system. That's what's got to be fixed. And that's what constitutionalism promises to bring. What we're going to do is going to be the greatest civics education ever put through in a platform in the history of Canada, for all ministries, all of it, every last ounce of it. 6 to 9 month conventions for every Canadian and every first person. You will learn a tremendous education in layman's terms, in plain speak, in the language of your choosing. All 215 available in Canada. That's reality. But everything is positive. Last night was explosive, and I want to get from MJ Phillips, I want to get that recording. I want to put some time in and chop that up, because it is explosive. And it's not to make fun of justices and legal professionals. It's to highlight that even them,
in 600 meters, continue on to Yellowhead Highway East, Alberta 16.
Even them with their education and their higher learning were kept from so very, very much. And again, I'm lucky. I have the greatest legal professionals, highest ranking throughout the entire world at my disposal. They're awesome, awesome intellectual published property.
In 3 kilometers, take the Alberta 16 exit.
in so many private sessions for so many years, and they're there at my disposal whenever I need. And I can hammer. I hammered the Supreme Court like nobody else yesterday, proving again and again, and even the politician I'm not going to name that jumped in there, even he knows. He may have been mad at me at how I kind of hit him too, but the reality is even he knows everything I said is 100% correct. And even that leading prosecutor couldn't answer any of the pretty easy questions posed when how come the Supreme Court did this, when precedent law, the common law, our justice system's only interpretation at hand isn't followed. And then there is nothing in the Constitution to give them the power to make those decisions. Where did it come from? It came from the executive. Why? Because the executive crown side of our politics mandates the justice system whenever they want. Because we're King's Court, folks. It's age-old, birth, and always has been of the constitutional monarchies, 950 years. The king don't want...
In 800 meters, take the Alberta 16 exit.
The king don't want the judgment, it don't happen. He don't want remedy, it don't happen. He wants them to forget common law, they forget it. Thanks everybody, that's my video. Share, it's important. Bye now.